The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It drummed against the tall windows of the old dormitory, whispering secrets only the night could understand. Aaron dragged his suitcase through the dimly lit hallway, his shoes squeaking against the wet floor. His new room number, D104, glowed faintly under the flickering light above the door. He hesitated for a moment before knocking. The rain outside thundered once more, and then silence. The door creaked open, and the world seemed to still. The man standing there wasn't what Aaron expected. He was tall, almost unnervingly so, dressed in black from head to toe. His dark hair framed a face that could have belonged in an old painting. Pale skin, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that seemed to hold centuries of silence. For a brief second, under the harsh light of the corridor, Aaron swore he saw them shimmer red. Then the man blinked, and they turned a calm brown. "Roommate?" the stranger asked softly. His voice was deep, smooth, and strangely melodic, like velvet brushing against broken glass. "Why, yeah," Aaron stammered, clutching his bag strap a little tighter.
Eran vale.
The man's lips curved slightly, just barely enough to be called a smile. "Lucian." He stepped aside, letting Aaron in. The room smelled faintly of rain and something else. Something Aaron couldn't quite place. It wasn't perfume. It wasn't cologne. It was warm, metallic, and sweet, like a memory he had never lived. The scent curled around him, drawing him in, filling his lungs until his heart began to race for no reason at all. Lucian moved silently, unpacking a few books and setting them in neat rows on the old wooden shelf. His movements were too smooth, too quiet. Every now and then, Aaron's gaze caught on him, the way the man's fingers lingered near his throat, or how he avoided the mirror by the bed. "So, what's your major?" Aaron asked, breaking the strange silence. "Literature," Lucian said without looking up. "I enjoy stories that remember pain." Aaron blinked. "That's poetic." Lucian chuckled lowly, a sound that made Aaron's skin prickle. "Poetry usually comes from blood, not ink." Something about the way he said blood sent a shiver down Aaron's spine. He looked away quickly, pretending to arrange his desk. But the scent, God, that scent, only grew stronger the closer Lucian came. It clung to his clothes, to the air, to the space between them. Hours passed, and the rain softened into mist. Lucian sat by the window, staring out into the fog, motionless. Aaron couldn't tell if he was breathing. When their eyes finally met, Aaron froze. Lucian's pupils dilated, a strange hunger flickering behind them. Then, in a blink, it was gone. "Good night, Aaron," Lucian said, voice calm once more. Aaron nodded, heart pounding. "Good night." He lay awake long after, listening to the soft sound of rain against glass. Somewhere in the darkness, he heard a faint whisper, like Lucian was talking to himself in another language, something old and aching. When Aaron finally closed his eyes, that scent lingered in his dreams. Sweet, dangerous, and addictive. And he knew, even if he didn't understand why yet, that nothing about this roommate was ordinary. Days passed, but the rain never truly left the air. Even when the sun broke through the clouds, the world felt dim, like the light itself was afraid to touch room D104. Aaron had started to notice things. Lucian never ate. Not once. In the mornings, Aaron would hurry through his classes, come back with takeout, and find Lucian sitting by the window, reading the same book in his hands for days. His food tray always stayed empty. The first time Aaron offered him a sandwich, Lucian only smiled politely. "I don't eat much. My body doesn't need it," he'd said. Aaron laughed it off at first. Maybe he was on some weird diet. But it didn't explain why Lucian's skin looked so impossibly pale, or why he always closed the curtains before dawn, even on sunny days, or why his window was always locked. From the inside, every night, before sleeping, Aaron would hear the faint click of the lock. Once, curiosity got the better of him, and he asked, "Are you afraid someone might sneak in?" Lucian had looked up from his book, his eyes dark and unreadable. "Not someone," he said softly. "Something." The way he said it made Aaron's stomach twist. Still, despite the unease, he couldn't stop watching him. There was something magnetic about Lucien, something that pulled Aaron closer no matter how hard he tried to keep his distance. The soft way Lucien spoke, his quiet elegance, the faint trace of that scent that still lingered in the air, sweet, smoky, and impossibly addictive. Aaron caught himself breathing it in when Lucien passed by. It made his chest tighten. That night, the tension finally broke. Aaron was finishing an assignment at his desk, the sound of Lucien's soft humming filling the silence. Reaching for his scissors, his hand slipped, and the blade nicked his finger. Ah! He hissed as blood welled up, bright against his skin. Before Aaron could even reach for a tissue, Lucien was there. He moved faster than humanly possible. 1 second at the bookshelf, the next beside Aaron's chair, his cold hand gently gripping Aaron's wrist. His eyes weren't brown anymore. They glowed. A deep, burning crimson that made Aaron's breath catch. "You're bleeding?" Lucien whispered, voice trembling with something between hunger and restraint. Aaron swallowed hard. "It's just a scratch." Lucien didn't move. His gaze stayed locked on the drop of blood sliding down Aaron's finger. His lips parted, and for a moment, just a moment, Aaron saw the faintest glint of fangs. Aaron's heart thudded painfully in his chest. He wanted to pull away, but something in Lucien's eyes froze him completely. There was hunger there, yes, but also sorrow, desperation. Lucien's grip trembled. He inhaled sharply, then released Aaron's hand as if it burned. "I'm sorry," he breathed, turning away. "I didn't mean to." He pressed a hand to his mouth, shoulders rigid, veins faintly visible along his neck. Aaron stared, pulse racing, mind spinning. He should have been terrified. He should have run. But instead, all he could think about was how close Lucien had been. How his touch had felt cold, and yet it sent heat crawling up Aaron's skin. "Lucien," he whispered, standing slowly. "Are you okay?" Lucien didn't answer. His back was to him, his silhouette tense in the moonlight. Finally, his voice came, low and trembling. "You should stay away from me for a while."
Eran struat tiktanat.
"Why?" Lucien turned, and for the first time, Aaron saw him for what he truly was. Eyes still faintly glowing, lips pale but stained red, the faint trace of fangs vanishing as he forced them back. "Because, Aaron," he said softly, his voice almost breaking, "your scent is driving me insane." The words hung in the air like thunder before the storm. And Aaron knew whatever Lucien was hiding, whatever he truly was, it wasn't human. But he also knew, deep down, that he didn't want to stay away. Not anymore. The night felt heavier than usual. The rain had finally stopped, leaving behind a quiet that seemed to press against the walls of room D104. Aaron couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lucien's face, those red eyes flickering like dying embers, that voice trembling between hunger and apology. He turned on his side, staring at Lucien's bed across the room. It was empty, again. Lucien had been disappearing almost every night since the incident. The night of the cut, the blood, the hunger. Aaron had tried not to think about it, but his mind refused to let go. Sometimes, when he pretended to be asleep, he could hear Lucien's footsteps returning near dawn. Soft, careful, almost guilt-ridden. Then the click of the window lock. The sound of a man hiding from something only he could see. Tonight was no different. Aaron drifted between drowsiness and wakefulness, the scent of rain still lingering in the air. Then, faintly, he heard it, the window creak open. He didn't move. The sound of quiet steps crossed the room. Slow, deliberate. The air shifted, colder now, yet strangely comforting. A soft whisper brushed against the silence.
Eran.
The voice was so gentle, so fragile, that for a moment, Aaron thought he was dreaming. His heart began to pound, each beat echoing loud in his chest. He opened his eyes just a fraction. Lucien was standing beside his bed, moonlight spilling across his face. His black hair fell loose, shadows curling around his features like smoke. His eyes weren't glowing this time. They were soft brown, but darker than usual, filled with something Aaron couldn't name. Lucien's hand hovered inches above Aaron's cheek, trembling as if resisting the urge to touch. "You shouldn't make it so hard," he whispered, his voice breaking with something that sounded like longing. "You smell like everything I've tried to forget." Aaron's breath caught. He kept still, pretending to sleep, but every nerve in his body screamed awareness. He could feel the faint chill radiating from Lucien's skin, could hear the slow rhythm of his breath. Too calm, too quiet to be human. Lucien leaned closer, close enough for Aaron to feel his cool breath against his ear. "Aaron," he murmured again, softer this time. "Don't dream of me. It's safer that way." And then silence. A rush of cold air swept through as the window opened, then closed. When Aaron finally dared to move, Lucien was gone. Only the lingering scent remained, sweet, smoky, addictive. The same scent that made Aaron's chest ache. He sat up slowly, hand pressed against his heart. It was racing. He said my name. He could still hear it. That voice, both tender and tortured. That sound didn't feel like a predator's growl. It felt like a confession. That night, Aaron finally fell asleep, but peace didn't follow. In his dreams, he was standing in a dark forest under a blood-red moon. Lucien was there, eyes glowing faintly, his expression torn between desire and despair. Lucien reached out a hand toward him, but every time Aaron tried to touch him, Lucien vanished like mist. Aaron woke before dawn, breathless, a single word trembling on his lips. "Lucien," and from that moment on, he knew. It wasn't fear keeping him awake anymore. It was want. Sleep had become a stranger to Aaron. Since that night, since Lucien had whispered his name with that aching tenderness, Aaron couldn't look at him the same way. Every time their eyes met, his heart stumbled. Every time Lucien spoke, Aaron caught himself listening too closely, like his voice was a spell he didn't want to break. But Lucien had changed, too. He spoke less, stayed out later, and moved with a tension that felt like a storm waiting to break. His smiles, once faint but real, had vanished completely. The window locks still clicked every night. The scent still lingered, sweet, metallic, haunting. One night, when the clock struck 2, Aaron woke suddenly. The curtains were fluttering, the window slightly open. Lucien was gone. A strange pull, half worry, half curiosity, made Aaron grab his hoodie and step outside. The campus was asleep, the streets slick with rain. The moon hung low, washing everything in pale silver. He followed the faint sound of movement down a narrow path behind the dorms. And then he saw him. Lucien stood under the old willow tree, his black coat fluttering in the wind. His back was turned, shoulders tense. At his feet lay a stray cat, still small, its fur stained dark.
Eran frosa.
His breath hitched. For a moment, he didn't understand what he was seeing. Then Lucien lifted his head slightly, and moonlight spilled across his face. His lips were wet with crimson. Blood glistened at the corner of his mouth as he wiped it away with the back of his hand. His eyes glowed faintly, not bright red this time, but dark, molten, restrained. A man fighting against his own nature. Aaron's body trembled. Fear tangled with something else, something that shouldn't have been there. Fascination. He should have been horrified, but instead he was mesmerized. Lucien looked heartbreakingly beautiful in that moment, like a fallen angel caught between guilt and hunger. A dry twig cracked under Aaron's shoe. Lucien turned sharply. In an instant he was gone from the spot, and before Aaron could blink, he appeared just a few feet away, too fast, too silent. "Aaron," he said, voice low and sharp. "Why are you here?" Aaron took a shaky step back. I was worried. You weren't in the room and—" Lucien's eyes darkened. The faint glow returned, like fire behind glass. "You shouldn't have followed me." Aaron swallowed hard, but his voice came out softer than he expected. "You were feeding, weren't you?" Lucien said nothing. The silence between them stretched until it hurt. Then he exhaled slowly, his expression softening with resignation. "Yes," he murmured, "but not on humans." I made that promise long ago. He stepped closer, his face now inches away from Aaron's. The scent, warm and metallic, wrapped around him again, dizzying and intoxicating. Lucien's gaze lingered on Aaron's throat for a dangerous second before he looked away, forcing a strained smile. Curiosity can get you bitten, Aaron. The words weren't cruel. They were a warning, gentle, almost pleading. Aaron's heart thudded painfully. His voice trembled. And if I don't stay curious? Lucien's eyes flicked up to meet his. For a heartbeat, the world stopped. The air thickened between them. Fear and desire twisted together, inseparable. Then you'll make me break every promise I've ever kept, Lucien whispered. And before Aaron could speak, Lucien vanished, disappearing into the night like smoke, leaving nothing behind but the echo of his voice and the faint scent of rain and blood. Aaron stood there, breathless, staring at the empty shadows beneath the willow. His hands trembled, but not from fear, because now he knew the truth. Lucien wasn't just dangerous. He was irresistible. The next morning, the sunlight felt foreign. It leaked through the curtains, pale and cold, settling on Aaron's desk. But Lucien's side of the room was empty again. Aaron hadn't slept after what he saw. The image of Lucien standing under the moon, lips glistening with blood, haunted him with every blink. Fear twisted somewhere deep inside him, but another feeling, something warmer, reckless, kept tugging at him. He wasn't feeding on a person. He could have hurt me, but he didn't. By noon, Lucien returned. He looked exhausted, paler than usual, dark circles bruising the skin beneath his eyes. His black coat was damp, his movements quiet, restrained. When their eyes met, neither spoke. Aaron's heart raced as he finally whispered, "You don't have to pretend anymore." Lucien froze halfway to the bookshelf. "Pretend? I saw you," Aaron said, voice trembling but firm. "Last night, under the willow." The air went still. The sound of the rain outside faded into silence. For a long time, Lucien didn't move. Then, slowly, he turned to face him. His expression wasn't anger. It was sorrow. "I told myself you'd never find out," he said quietly. "That I could live quietly, unseen." Aaron swallowed hard. "You're a vampire, aren't you?" Lucien's lips curved into a faint, bitter smile. "If that word still means what it used to, then yes." He looked down at his hands, pale and trembling slightly. "I drink blood, Aaron, but not from humans. Not anymore. I haven't for years. I've trained myself to survive on animal blood. It's weaker, duller, but it lets me live without killing. I don't want to be a monster." His voice cracked at the end, breaking Aaron's heart. For the first time, Aaron didn't see a creature from nightmares. He saw a man weighed down by centuries of guilt. Lucien continued, voice lower now. "I came here because it's easier to disappear among people. Easier to pretend. But then you came along." He stopped, jaw tightening. "Your scent. It's different. It's like something ancient inside me remembers you." Aaron stepped closer, his pulse loud in his ears. "You could have hurt me that night, but you didn't." Lucien's gaze lifted to his. "That's the problem," he whispered. "I wanted to." The confession sent a chill through the air, but Aaron didn't back away. Instead, he whispered, "Then why didn't you?" Lucien looked at him for a long, painful moment before replying. "Because you looked at me like I was still human." Something inside Aaron broke then. He didn't know whether it was fear melting into sympathy or curiosity turning into something deeper, but he reached out, his hand brushing Lucien's sleeve. The vampire flinched at the touch, as if warmth itself could burn him. "I won't tell anyone," Aaron said softly. "Your secret's safe with me." Lucien's expression softened, though his eyes glistened with an emotion Aaron couldn't name. Gratitude, fear, desire, maybe all of it at once. He stepped back, forcing space between them. "You shouldn't get close to me, Aaron. It's dangerous." Aaron gave a faint, trembling smile. "I think it's too late for that." Lucien's breath hitched, his control slipping for just a second. His gaze flickered to Aaron's throat before he turned sharply away, walking toward the window. Then I'll have to learn to control myself better, he murmured. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, and Aaron watched the way Lucien's profile caught the faint light. Beautiful, tragic, lonely. He told himself to forget the warmth of that moment. He told himself to ignore the way his heart beat faster whenever Lucien's scent filled the room. But that night, as he lay awake, he could still feel the echo of Lucien's voice, soft and sorrowful. Because you looked at me like I was still human. And Aaron knew he would never be able to unsee what he had seen, or unfeel what had begun to grow inside him. The air between them had changed. It was no longer just curiosity, it was tension, the kind that hummed beneath the skin, the kind that made every heartbeat feel too loud. Lucien had been quieter lately, his voice softer, his steps slower. Aaron noticed it all. The way his roommate's eyes darkened whenever he got too close, the way his throat tensed like he was swallowing something far more dangerous than words. That evening, while Aaron worked on his laptop, he felt Lucien's gaze burn through him. "You should sleep," Lucien murmured from the shadows, his tone unusually deep. "I'm not tired," Aaron replied, not looking up, but his pulse quickened anyway. He could feel Lucien move, the whisper of air, the subtle shift in weight on the wooden floor. Then came that scent again, the one that had haunted Aaron since the first night. Dark, sweet, metallic, with something heartbreakingly familiar now. It wrapped around him, made him lightheaded. "Lucien," he whispered, his voice trembling. Lucien's breath was at his ear before he realized how close he'd gotten. "Your heart?" Lucien's voice was barely audible. "It's too loud." Aaron froze, his chest thundering. "You can hear it? I can feel it." Lucien's tone cracked with restraint. His eyes glowed faintly crimson under the dim lamplight. "Every beat calls to me. It's maddening." Aaron turned, meeting those wild, hungry eyes, and instead of fear, what he felt was a pull, a dangerous, magnetic longing that made no sense. Lucien stepped back abruptly, clutching the edge of the table. "I shouldn't be near you." "Then why are you?" Aaron whispered back, unable to stop himself. Lucien's lips parted, fangs barely glinting. "Because your scent, it's not human. It's familiar. It's like..." He hesitated, pained. "Like someone I lost a long time ago." Aaron's heart stuttered, confusion swirling in his chest. "Someone you loved?" Lucien didn't answer, only turned away, trembling, his hunger and grief locked behind centuries of silence. That night, Aaron lay awake, his heart still racing. He didn't understand what was happening, only that every time Lucien looked at him, it felt like being pulled into a storm that neither of them could escape. And for the first time, Aaron wondered if his heartbeat was keeping them both alive, or slowly tearing them apart. The storm rolled in just after midnight, loud enough to shake the windows. Thunder cracked like the sky itself was splitting, and the lights flickered once before dying completely. Aaron cursed softly under his breath. Great, perfect timing. He reached for his phone flashlight, but before he could, a warm flicker appeared. A single candle glowing in the darkness. Lucien stood there, holding it. The golden light carved his face into something otherworldly, shadows dancing along his cheekbones and over his pale skin. His eyes shimmered with quiet intensity. "Power's out," Lucien murmured. "Seems we'll have to survive the night. Like this." Aaron tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "You make it sound like the apocalypse." Lucien's lips curved faintly. "For someone like me, nights like these are dangerous." He set the candle on the small table between their beds. The room filled with a warm, trembling glow, and for the first time, Aaron noticed how close they really were. Close enough to see the rise and fall of Lucien's chest, close enough to feel his presence pressing against the silence. "Lucien," Aaron said softly, "you've been avoiding me." Lucien's gaze flickered toward him, sharp and unreadable. "For your own good." Aaron's voice dropped, trembling. "Then why do you look at me like that?" For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then Lucien did, slow, deliberate, until they were face to face. The sound of rain filled the space between them, and the candlelight trembled, throwing their shadows together against the wall. Aaron's breath hitched as Lucien leaned in, their faces just inches apart. His scent, that familiar intoxicating mix of smoke, rain, and something wild, enveloped him. "Don't," Lucien whispered, his voice shaking. "You don't know what you're asking for, Aaron." Aaron's heart pounded so hard it hurt. "Then tell me." Lucien's hand rose as if to touch his cheek, then froze midair. His eyes glowed faintly red, hunger, pain, and longing warring inside him. He trembled, fighting something ancient and unstoppable. "I could hurt you," Lucien breathed, his voice breaking. Aaron leaned forward anyway, so close that their breaths mingled, warm and uneven. "Then why does it feel like you already have?" For a moment, time stopped. The candle sputtered. The storm outside screamed. Lucien closed his eyes, every part of him shaking with restraint, then turned away, vanishing into the shadows before Aaron could move. The candle burned lower, its flame trembling like the heartbeat Aaron couldn't calm. And as he stared at the empty side of the room, he realized something terrifying and true. He no longer feared Lucien's hunger. He feared what he was starting to crave instead. The night it happened, the world felt unnaturally quiet, the kind of silence that came before something irreversible. Aaron sat by the window, watching the city lights blur through the rain. Lucien hadn't spoken much for days. He'd been restless, pacing like a predator trapped in his own body. His eyes had darkened. Not the warm brown Aaron had grown used to, but that haunting liquid crimson that only surfaced when his hunger clawed too deep. "Lucien," Aaron said softly, breaking the silence, "you haven't fed, have you?" Lucien froze, his back turned. "Don't," he warned, voice tight. "You shouldn't even ask that." But Aaron didn't stop. "You're starving. I can see it. You think hiding it keeps me safe, but it's killing you." Lucien turned then, his eyes glowing like blood under moonlight. "You don't understand what I'm capable of when I lose control." "Then show me," Aaron whispered, his voice trembling but firm. "I trust you." That broke something inside Lucien. In an instant he was there, too close, too fast. The air trembled with his presence. Aaron felt the cold brush of Lucien's breath against his neck, the sharpness of his fangs grazing his skin. "Last chance, Aaron," Lucien growled, his control unraveling. "Tell me to stop." But Aaron only closed his eyes and whispered, "I won't." And then pain. Sharp, electric, alive. Lucien's fangs sank into his skin, and the world tilted. Aaron gasped, but it wasn't just agony. It was something else. Heat, light, a pulse that wasn't entirely his. Lucien's breath hitched as he drank, trembling against Aaron's throat. The scent of blood filled the air, sweet, forbidden. And with every heartbeat, something deeper formed between them. Aaron's vision blurred, and in that haze, he saw flashes that weren't his. A lonely child under moonlight, a century of hunger, faces lost to time. Lucien's memories. When Lucien finally tore himself away, his lips were stained crimson, his eyes wild with guilt and desire. "Aaron, what have I done?" Aaron fell into his arms, weak but conscious. His pulse fluttered like a whisper. "You didn't kill me," he murmured, eyes half closed. "You couldn't." Lucien stared in disbelief. Aaron's wound was already closing, healing faster than humanly possible. And beneath the scent of blood, something new was forming, something that bound their souls tighter than either of them could comprehend. When Aaron finally looked up, their eyes met, and for the first time Lucien saw it. The faint red shimmer in Aaron's irises. "Lucien!" Aaron breathed, his voice soft, dazed. "I can feel you." Lucien staggered back, horrified and awed all at once. "That's impossible." But Aaron could feel the truth, the fear, the hunger, the sorrow buried deep in Lucien's heart. Their bond had become something unnatural, something forbidden. Outside, the storm had passed. Inside, something far more dangerous had begun. They were no longer two separate beings. They were a heartbeat split in half, one vampire, one human, both tasting sin and unable to turn back. The days after the bite blurred together, a haze of strange sensations and quiet nights. Aaron could feel Lucien even when he wasn't near, the echo of his heartbeat, the ghost of his sorrow, and sometimes, in the stillness between dreams, flashes of someone else's life. A woman's voice whispering his name, a castle burning in the distance, a man, Lucien, weeping beneath a crimson moon. Aaron woke one night, breathless, clutching his chest. The images faded like mist, but the pain in his heart lingered. Lucien was already awake, sitting by the window with his head bowed. His hands trembled slightly, a rare crack in his unshakable calm. "You saw it, didn't you?" he said without looking back. Aaron swallowed hard. "Saw what?" Lucien turned, his eyes glimmering faintly in the moonlight. Not with hunger this time, but grief. "Her. The one I lost." Aaron nodded slowly, his pulse quickening. "She looked like me." Lucien's jaw tightened. Not looked, felt. The same heart, the same scent, the same warmth that once made me believe I could be human again. He rose, walking toward Aaron, each step heavy with memories. "Her name was Elise, immortal, gentle. She found me when I was hiding from hunters, centuries ago. I warned her to stay away, but she didn't. She said even monsters deserved someone to hold them." Lucien's voice trembled, the candlelight flickering across his face. "I tried to protect her, but one night they came for me. She stepped in front of a blade meant for my heart. Silence, only the rain tapping at the glass. I turned her," Lucien whispered, voice cracking. "Tried to save her, but her body rejected it. She died in my arms, her blood on my lips, her last breath on my name." Aaron's chest ached, an ache that didn't feel entirely his own. His fingers trembled as he reached out, brushing Lucien's cold hand. "She loved you," Aaron murmured, "and you've carried that pain ever since." Lucien met his eyes, a flicker of anguish crossing his features. "You don't understand, Aaron. When I met you, that scent, your blood, it was hers, exactly hers. I thought the universe was mocking me. But now—" He hesitated, searching Aaron's face like he was afraid of the answer. "Now I'm not sure if it's a curse or a second chance." Aaron's breath caught. The connection pulsed again between them. Stronger this time, alive and electric. In that instant, he felt it. The echo of Elisa's last heartbeat merging with his own. "Lucien," Aaron whispered, his eyes wet. "What if I'm not just her memory? What if I'm her reborn?" Lucien's lips parted in disbelief, his voice barely a whisper. "Then fate is crueler and kinder than I ever imagined." The wind howled outside, blowing out the last candle. In the darkness, their souls reached for each other, bound by time, by blood, by love that refused to die. The night felt alive, like the world itself was holding its breath for what was about to happen. Lucien hadn't spoken since his confession. The air between him and Aaron vibrated with everything left unsaid. Centuries of grief, the pull of destiny, and the fragile heartbeat that tied them together. Aaron stood by the window, staring at the reflection of the vampire who had turned his world inside out. Lucien's eyes glowed softly in the moonlight, a mix of torment and longing that made Aaron's chest ache. "You still don't understand," Lucien said quietly, voice shaking. "Loving me is a curse, Aaron. Everyone who's ever tried has paid for it in blood." Aaron turned, his gaze steady. "Then let me decide if I'm willing to bleed for you." Lucien's composure cracked. "Why? After everything you've seen, everything I've done?" "Because I feel you," Aaron interrupted, stepping closer. "Your pain, your loneliness, your hunger, and beneath it all, your heart. You think it's gone, but it isn't. It's been beating all along. You just forgot what it felt like to be alive." Lucien stared at him as though seeing light for the first time in centuries. "Aaron." Aaron took another step, close enough that their breaths mingled. "You can't scare me away anymore." For a moment, Lucien stood frozen, trembling like a man on the edge of surrender. Then the dam broke. His hands slid behind Aaron's neck, pulling him close. Not roughly, but with the desperation of someone who'd waited lifetimes. Their lips met. It wasn't gentle. It was raw, consuming, centuries of loss colliding with one fragile moment of love. Aaron's hands fisted in Lucien's shirt as the vampire kissed him like he was starving. Like the world would end if he stopped. And maybe, in some way, it did. When Lucien finally pulled back, his fangs grazed Aaron's bottom lip, leaving a trace of blood. The sight made him freeze, the predator in him fighting the man he wanted to be. Aaron cupped his face, whispering, "It's okay. I trust you." Lucien's eyes softened, crimson fading into dark brown. He pressed his forehead against Aaron's and exhaled shakily. "I swore I'd never taste love again," he murmured, voice breaking. "But you've already become the only thing I crave that isn't blood." Aaron smiled faintly, brushing his thumb over Lucien's cold cheek. "Then don't fight it anymore." Lucien's expression hardened with a vow, low and fierce. "If this love damns me, then I'll go to hell smiling, as long as you're with me." Thunder rumbled outside, distant and soft this time, like a heartbeat echoing through the night. In that moment, the curse and the blessing became one. Blood had turned to love, and neither of them could ever turn back. The peace between them didn't last. It never does for creatures who live between darkness and dawn. For a few short days, Aaron and Lucien lived like the world outside their dorm didn't exist. Quiet mornings, fleeting smiles, unspoken promises shared between heartbeat and silence. But the calm had a pulse of its own, a quiet warning that something unseen was drawing near. It began with the arrival of a new professor, Dr. Adrian Vale, young for an academic with sharp blue eyes that seemed to see through people rather than at them. His lectures on European folklore and mythology became an instant favorite among students, but Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that there was something off about him. The way he watched Lucien when they passed in the hallway. The way he smiled when he saw Aaron wearing the same silver pendant Lucien had given him. It was too knowing, too careful. One evening, after class, Dr. Vale stopped Aaron by the door. "You're close with Lucien, aren't you?" he asked casually, his tone polite but heavy with hidden weight. Aaron blinked, caught off guard. "He's my roommate." "Why?" Dr. Vale's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Just curious. You seem different lately, paler, distracted. Some might say enchanted." Aaron forced a laugh, uncomfortable. "I think you've been reading too many of your own myths, Professor." But when he turned to leave, the man whispered, just loud enough to hear, "Not myths, Aaron. Warnings." That night, Aaron told Lucien what happened. Lucien froze mid-step, the faintest growl slipping past his lips. "Vale," he said bitterly, eyes darkening. "I know that name." Aaron frowned. "You do?" Lucien nodded slowly, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous whisper. "The Vale family has hunted my kind for centuries. I thought I ended their bloodline 100 years ago."
Aaron's tumakwista.
"He knows, doesn't he?" Lucien met his gaze, eyes glowing faintly crimson. "Yes, and he's using you to draw me out." A chill ran through Aaron's body. "Then we'll run." "No," Lucien interrupted, stepping closer, his tone fierce but gentle. "Running will only confirm what he suspects. I'll handle him." Aaron grabbed his hand, his voice trembling. "If you hurt him, they'll find out what you are. You'll lose everything." Lucien's expression softened, though his jaw stayed tight. "If I lose you, there's nothing left to lose." That night, as Aaron tried to sleep, he felt Lucien's presence leave the room, silent as smoke. He didn't know what Lucien planned to do, only that danger was closing in like a tightening noose. Outside, the rain began again, soft and unrelenting, and from the shadows near the old lecture hall, Dr. Vale watched the dorm windows with cold precision, whispering to himself, "Come out, vampire. Come out and save him." The night shattered in a scream. Aaron barely saw the man who grabbed him. Just a flash of silver, the sharp scent of iron, and the burn of something cold pressed to his throat. By the time he realized what was happening, he was already bound in the back of a van, the world blurring through tinted glass. "Let me go," he shouted, but his voice echoed uselessly against the metal. A figure turned from the front seat. Dr. Vale's calm smile made Aaron's blood run cold. "You really have no idea, do you?" he said softly. "The thing you live with, the one you love, is a predator wearing a human face." Aaron glared at him, voice trembling with rage. "You don't know him." "Oh, I know him," Vale said. "Lucien Devereux, the Silver Fang. The vampire who slaughtered half my family 2 centuries ago." Aaron's heart stopped. "That's not who he is anymore." Vale's eyes hardened. "Monsters don't change. They just hide until someone bleeds enough to remind them of what they are." The van screeched to a stop near the old church ruins on the outskirts of the city, a place long abandoned, its stone walls half-eaten by ivy. And sunlight. The dawn was already breaking. Lucien appeared before Vale could drag Aaron inside. He moved like mist, eyes glowing crimson, fury radiating from every inch of him. "Let him go," Lucien growled, his fangs bared. Vale lifted his crossbow, its tip gleaming with liquid silver. "Step into the light, and you can have him." Lucien hesitated, just for a second, as sunlight poured across the cracked stone floor. His skin smoked where it touched the edge of it. "Lucien, don't!" Aaron shouted, struggling against the ropes. But Lucien's gaze never left him. His expression softened, calm and unyielding. "I told you, Aaron. I'd rather burn than lose you." And then he stepped into the light. The air filled with the sound of sizzling flesh. Lucien staggered forward, each step tearing a cry from Aaron's throat. He caught the silver bolt midair as Vale fired, ripping it free from his shoulder without slowing. His body was breaking, the sunlight eating through his skin, smoke curling from his arms, but still he reached Aaron. With a snarl, Lucien ripped the ropes apart and shielded Aaron with his body, even as fire crawled across his back. "Run," he whispered, his voice shaking. "Please." But Aaron didn't move. He couldn't. Not while Lucien was collapsing in front of him. "Lucien, no, stay with me." Lucien's body trembled, his strength fading. "Sunlight, it's too strong. I can't." And then Aaron did the only thing he could. He pressed his wrist to Lucien's lips. "Drink." Lucien's eyes widened in horror. "No. Your blood. Drink." Aaron cried, tears falling. "You saved me. Let me save you." The scent of his blood hit the air, warm, pure, human. Lucien resisted for one agonizing moment before instinct took over. His fangs pierced Aaron's skin, and their bond ignited like lightning. Aaron gasped as a wave of power tore through him. Pain, heat, light. Their hearts sinking, their breaths merging. Lucien's body stopped burning. His wounds began to heal, glowing faintly as the sunlight dimmed around them. When he finally pulled away, trembling, Aaron collapsed against his chest. Lucien cradled him, voice breaking. "Why would you do that?" Aaron's eyes fluttered open, weak but steady. "Because you're the only life I'd die for." Lucien pressed his forehead to Aaron's, whispering, "Then I'll never let death touch you again." Outside, the storm clouds rolled in, covering the sun, hiding them from the light that sought to destroy them both. But neither of them noticed, because for the first time they weren't vampire and human, hunter or prey. They were two souls bound in the space between life and death, and neither would ever let go. Aaron woke to silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy, breathless stillness that follows a storm. His body ached, his pulse sluggish, yet a strange warmth pulsed through his veins. It wasn't pain. It was connection. When he turned, Lucien was there, motionless on the floor beside him, pale and still as marble. For one heart-stopping second, Aaron thought he'd lost him. Then Lucien gasped. The sound was raw, inhuman. His back arched, eyes snapping open, and they weren't the soft brown Aaron remembered. They were crimson, alive with fire and something ancient. "Lucien!"
Eran whisperat.
Lucien's breath came fast, sharp. He looked at his hands, trembling as if he could feel the power coursing through him. The faint scars from the sunlight were gone. His skin shimmered faintly under the dim light, too perfect, too alive. "What have you done?" he whispered, his voice rough and dark. Aaron tried to sit up, weak but determined. I saved you. Lucien turned his head slowly, his gaze locking onto Aaron's throat, the faint mark where he'd bitten him now glowing faintly red. His hunger surged through the air like heat, but beneath it, there was love. Fierce, raw, uncontrollable. I can feel you, Lucien said hoarsely, pressing a hand to his chest. Every heartbeat, every thought, every fear.
Eran frosa.
You mean, our bond? Lucien interrupted, his voice breaking. It's complete. There's no barrier now. Your blood, it changed me. I'm not what I was before. He moved closer, his steps unsteady but deliberate. Aaron could feel Lucien's emotions pouring into him. Hunger, guilt, desire, devotion. The sensations overlapped until he couldn't tell which were his and which were Lucien's. When Lucien reached him, he hesitated, his expression softening. You've tethered yourself to a monster, he whispered. Aaron shook his head, tears welling. Then I'll be the monster with you. Lucien's resolve broke. He cupped Aaron's face, his fingers cold but shaking. Aaron, I can't hide it anymore. Not my love. Not my hunger. They're the same now. And then he kissed him. Slow at first, then desperate, as if the bond itself demanded it. Aaron's pulse raced. He could feel Lucien's heartbeat echoing inside him like a second rhythm. Every emotion, every breath, shared. When they pulled apart, Lucien's voice was low, reverent. I am yours now, body, blood, and soul. Aaron leaned against him, exhausted but unafraid. Then we face whatever comes next, together. Lucien's eyes glowed brighter for a moment, the crimson flicker of eternity meeting mortal warmth. Outside, the night whispered through the shattered church windows, carrying their vow into the dark. Two hearts beating as one, two souls no longer separate, and love so powerful it blurred the line between hunger and devotion. The night sky bled red over the city, an omen. Aaron felt it before it began. A cold pulse in his chest, echoing through his bond with Lucien. The air itself trembled with ancient power. Lucien stood by the window, motionless, his crimson eyes fixed on the horizon. He's here, he whispered. Who? Aaron asked, though the dread in Lucien's tone told him the answer long before the name left his lips. Adrian. The air shattered with the sound of glass. In a blur of black mist, a tall figure appeared, pale, regal, eyes like molten silver. His presence filled the room with suffocating dominance. Still alive after all these centuries, Lucien? Adrian's voice was smooth, cruelly amused. I thought the sun had finally done what I couldn't. Lucien stepped forward, shielding Aaron behind him. You should have stayed buried, Adrian. Adrian's gaze flicked toward Aaron. Ah, a mortal? No, not quite mortal anymore, I see. You've bonded. His lips curled into a smirk. How sentimental. The great Lucien, chained by human love. Aaron's pulse thundered. He's not chained. He chose me. Adrian's smile vanished. Then he chose his death. In an instant, the room erupted into chaos. Shadows lunged. The air split with the clash of supernatural force. Glass shattered, furniture splintered, and the world became a blur of blood and darkness. Lucien met Adrian blow for blow, centuries of rage unleashed. Their movements were too fast to follow. Claws, fangs, flashes of light and crimson energy. Aaron stumbled back, heart pounding, his connection to Lucien flaring like fire. Each strike Lucien took, he felt, pain burning through their shared bond. Stop it, Aaron shouted. He'll kill you both. Adrian turned on him, eyes cold and ancient. Stay out of this, human. Aaron's fear turned to fury. The bond inside him pulsed, his blood answering Lucien's call. Without thinking, he stepped between them. Lucien's eyes widened.
Eran. No.
Adrian struck. A blade of shadow cut through the air, but Aaron didn't fall. Instead, the mark on his neck flared with blinding light, throwing Adrian back. The light wasn't human. It was born from their bond, ancient, forbidden power, merging love with immortality. Lucien caught Aaron as he collapsed, his body trembling but alive. Adrian hissed, clutching his scorched arm.
Impossible.
That power, only bonded immortals. Lucien's voice was like thunder. He's mine, and I'll destroy anyone who touches him. Adrian's smirk returned, though blood ran down his lip. We'll see, old friend. The council will come for you both now. Enjoy your eternal night. With a swirl of black mist, he vanished into the darkness. Lucien knelt beside Aaron, pressing his forehead to his. Why would you do that? He whispered.
Eren smiled beakli.
Because I couldn't watch you fall, not again. Lucien's eyes softened. You risked everything for me. Aaron's fingers brushed his cheek. That's what love is, isn't it? Even when the world turns against you. Lucien kissed him, slow, trembling, full of unspoken promises. Outside, the storm subsided, leaving only silence and the faint shimmer of moonlight through broken glass. Their love had survived death, darkness, and blood. But now, as the night stretched endlessly around them, one truth lingered in the air. Eternal night had only just begun. The night had never felt so fragile, like the whole world was holding its breath for what came next. Aaron lay in Lucien's arms, his heartbeat faint, his skin pale as moonlight. The wound left by Adrian's shadow blade hadn't healed. No human blood could save him now. Lucien pressed trembling fingers to Aaron's throat. Stay with me, he whispered, voice breaking. Please, Aaron, don't leave me again. Aaron's lips parted weakly, a ghost of a smile flickering there. Looks like, this time, I'm the one dying first. Lucien's chest constricted. Don't say that. His fangs ached. Hunger, grief, and love burning into one unbearable truth. There was only one way to save him. One sin he'd sworn never to repeat. He cupped Aaron's face, eyes glowing a deep, sorrowful red. If I do this, you'll never see sunlight again. You'll hunger as I do. You'll be cursed like me. Aaron's voice was barely a whisper. If it means staying with you, then I'll take the darkness. Tears streaked down Lucien's pale cheeks. You have no idea what eternity feels like. Aaron's eyes fluttered open, filled with something stronger than fear. As long as it's with you, eternity sounds enough. Lucien leaned down, pressing one last kiss to Aaron's lips. It was tender, trembling, final. Then his fangs sank gently into Aaron's neck. The world stilled. Blood warm, alive, filled Lucien's senses, mingling with his own grief. He felt Aaron's life flicker, then twist, then change. The heartbeat slowed, stopped, and then a new rhythm emerged, silent, yet bound to his own. When Aaron's eyes opened again, they gleamed faintly crimson, reflecting the dying night. Lucien! He breathed, voice low, softer than it had ever been. Lucien smiled through his tears. Welcome home, my eternal roommate. Outside, the first light of dawn crept across the horizon. Lucien pulled Aaron close as the sunlight kissed the edge of the broken window. The glow touched them but didn't burn. The bond between them shimmered like a shield, woven from blood and love itself. Aaron looked at him, a faint smile curving his lips. Guess we finally beat the sunrise. Lucien brushed a strand of hair from his face, his voice a whisper that carried through eternity. You were never just my addiction, Aaron. You were my salvation. They stood together in the dim light, the world of mortals fading behind them. Two souls, once lost, now bound beyond life and death. As the city below woke to another day, the legends of the vampire and his mortal lover became just that, a whisper in the wind. But somewhere, in the eternal night, two heartbeats pulsed as one. Forever roommates, forever lovers, forever immortal. Drop of blood.